Welcome back. Breaking news overnight. The Trump administration launching an investigation after Cuba said its Coast Guard killed 4 people on board a U.S. registered boat. It happened about a mile off of Cuba's north coast near Cayo Falcones. The Cuban government claims that the border guards approached the vessel to gather more information and were met with gunfire. Havana also claiming that the 10 passengers were living in the United States and some had, quote, known histories of criminal and violent activity, according to Cuba. Secretary of State Marco Rubio briefed the press about it. Watch.
Suffice it to say, it is highly unusual to see shootouts in open sea like that. It's not something that happens every day. It's something, frankly, that hasn't happened with Cuba in a very long time. But we're going to find out. We're not going to base our conclusions on what they've told us. And I'm very, very confident that we will know the full story of what happened here, and we will know it soon. And then, we'll respond appropriately based on what that information tells us.
Joining me now is Florida Congressman Mike Haridopolos. Congressman, good to see you. I saw you the other night at the State of the Union, and I want to get your take on the president's comments there on foreign policy, and specifically related to this incident overnight in Cuba.
Well, as you know, this island has been in prison since 1959 under communism. They're literally living in the past because of the horrific rule that is in place in Cuba. We're all cautiously optimistic that there'll be freedom in Cuba soon. But as Marco Rubio said perfectly, we need to find out all the facts, all the details before we draw the conclusion in this unique situation.
All right, that's fine. But look, in the meantime, how are you doing anything in terms of our own homeland security when, in fact, Congress is still deadlocked over the DHS funding? I mean, the Senate Democrats blocked the bill to get operations moving again as the shutdown today stretches into day 13. Democrats claim that they are going to oppose any additional funding without a more significant oversight of federal immigration officers. And this impasse is stalling a Senate vote on the Save America Act. The president called on Congress to pass the legislation. You know that the legislation requires proof of citizenship to vote. During the State of the Union address, the president spoke about it as well. What are your expectations for the Department of Homeland Security and when it can open again?
Well, this is just pure politics from the Democrats once again. They have no concern for the homeland, clearly. As you mentioned, day 13 in which people who are protecting our airports are seized, and the Coast Guard, of course, with troubles with FEMA. They're not getting paid for their good work, and it's putting us in a precarious, vulnerable situation for their politics. They do not want to see a vote on the SAVE Act because we know that they benefit from the current law. We want to move forward and make sure that only Americans vote in American elections. It's common sense. It's shocking to me still today that 14 states don't allow a situation where they can get away with actually not having voter ID. It's comical. You can buy a beer. Of course, you need an ID to board a plane, and the Democrats think that it's okay to be in this position. Unacceptable. And I hope that Thune pushes for a talking filibuster at a very minimum, because we need to have a vote in order to literally save America.
Well, I mean, our guests, many of them who I've spoken with over the last couple of days, have said to me that you're not going to get a talking filibuster while the Department of Homeland Security is closed. You also heard Senator Thune say that yesterday. He said, look, we got to get the funding underway. We can't do an elongated conversation about the SAVE Act without having the Department of Homeland Security funded. I mean, is that the whole thing? Is this by design? They don't want to open it because they know that that's going to lead to a talking filibuster, put them on the spot to explain why they don't want voter ID, why they don't want people to prove their citizenship before they vote?
Well, that's exactly the case, Maria. This is pure politics. They want to deny the rights of the American public. Remember where they shut the government down for over 40 days last year, denying the will of the people so that we can legislate and turn around this country. This is why I think the leader of the Senate needs to move forward and say, look, we're already in this reality of the DHS funding gap. Let's go ahead and have this talking filibuster and put the Democrats on the spot. Over 80% of the public knows that there should be photo ID, American citizenship, in order to vote. And it's so pathetic what the Democrats are doing, and the mainstream media is allowing to get away with it. And thank goodness your show and others are pushing to make this common sense solution, get them on the floor, and making sure that we actually have a vote in order to make sure that photo ID is absolutely required in order to vote in the United States of America.
Yeah, obviously the president mentioned it in the State of the Union. He also focused on his tariff agenda during the address. The reworked 10% global tariff is now in effect for up to $150 150 days under Section 122. And we, of course, talked with Trade Representative Jameson Greer here yesterday. He said most countries will pay up to 15% in global tariffs. The administration is consulting with trade partners to make the global rate that number as they're doing these investigations. The president also suggested that the tariff revenue could eventually replace current income tax system. He pledged that the revenue would eventually replace the income tax and eliminate the deficit. We didn't get any new details on the 301 investigations, although Jameson Greer gave us some yesterday in breaking news. Here's what the trade rep said to me yesterday. Watch this. Should we expect that some of the deals that were already in place could be modified then?
Well, we'll see. We think that the deals that we've made with these folks actually tend to address, at least in part, some of the practices I'm talking about. We expect to have continuity in what we're doing. Even right now, we have the 10% tariff. It'll go up to 15 for some, and then it may go higher for others. And I think it will be in line with the types of tariffs we've been seeing.
So he was saying that, you know, he's not going to expect a renegotiation of these trade deals. But what do you make of what the president said, pledging that this revenue from tariffs could actually replace income tax?
Well, look, I think we are getting, of course, significant revenues from this. I think the big news a lot of people still miss is the fact that 10 years ago, 20% of our imports came from China. Today, it's less than 10% because we're finally getting tough on the Chinese and actually extracting revenue from them. After for years, they've been stealing information, of course, not playing by the rules. This is why we need to stay tough on China. We already have deals, as you know, Maria, with the UK, the EU, India, and others. This is the winning proposition, and we need to continue to win by drawing these revenues in and finally making sure that we have a level playing field. You can't have free trade without fair trade. The president needs to continue to push this in order to win this long-term endeavor so that America has an opportunity to compete worldwide.
All right, well, we're going to be watching those investigations. The president's trade agenda is due to Congress March 1st, so we'll probably hear more in the next week or so. Congressman, it's good to have you this morning. Thanks very much. Mike Haridopolos.
Always great to see you, Maria. Thank you.
All right, you too. Stay with us. We'll be right back.